Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan welcoming you back to Season 4 of the Mindshare Podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Be sure to follow The Buzz on Instagram at The Buzz Conference. Give them a visit at www.thebuzzconference.com and keep up with everything they are up to, including these two upcoming events. The first one is the Buzz Top Leaders Under 35 Summit, which is taking place on September 29th at the Mississauga Grand in Toronto. And the second one is Disruption, which is scheduled for January 12th, 2023. Be sure to get your tickets at www.thebuzzconference.com. We are proud to have the Buzz Conference as an ongoing sponsor of the Mindshare Podcast. Of course, Kits is also with us as a sponsor, as always. Kits Marketing is your full-on marketing tool set. This CRM provides you with a bulletproof keep-in-touch solution. Your contact list and your calendar are connected, as well as a complete suite of marketing tools, including a whole series of automation to simplify how you build mindshare so that you get more market share. Your fall market is in full swing right now. If you want to spend less on marketing and drive more leads as well as repeat and referral business, then you have to check out Kits by going to my site, www.mindshare101.com, and clicking on Marketing. Again, that's mindshare101.com. Click on Marketing. As you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and so I'd like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to rate the show, leave a review, and of course, we are making it super easy for you. All you have to do is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101, and again, as always, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 197. He's been in the real estate industry since you still had to physically print out 6 copies of an offer, plus a clean one for the lawyer when the deal was done. He's worked as an agent, a trainer for one of the big brands, as a proptech consultant, marketer, speaker, and more. Now he owns JustSellH Homes, a real estate marketing agency that specializes in helping realtors grow their business, as well as RealEstateMagazine.ca, the premier source of news for Canadian Realtors. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare Podcast is owner of JustSellHomes.com and the brand new owner of RealEstateMagazine.ca, my friend, Andrew Fogliato. Andrew, welcome back to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thanks for having me on. You're the first one to read the new bio.
Hey, listen, man, I'm super pumped. I was reading it and I'm still getting the goosebumps going dude, This is quite the change. I mean, we've been involved with REM for, ever since we got involved with, real estate, in the industry 16, 17 years ago. And I know we were doing a lot of marketing stuff for big clients past before that and again with REM. And so it's totally exciting to see that.
I remember I used to back when I sold real estate, I'd sit in my office and I was not that busy at the beginning. So I'd have time to kill regularly. I'd sit there, grab the newspaper. I remember the big boardroom in my office. We had one of those super long tables. I'd sit at the end of it, going through the REM newspaper. Never would have thought I'd end up owning it.
Right. Well, listen, on behalf of myself and my entire team, let me just say we wish you, the most congratulations in the world and nothing but the best. We are super pumped to see where this thing goes.
Appreciate it. I'm pretty excited for it. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely, man. So here, let's get in some brass tacks here because, maybe, I highly doubt it, but we're going to go there. Maybe there's people that don't know what or who REM is. And again, I will continue for everybody that's tuned in right now. I'll continue to refer to REM or refer to it as REM. It does stand for Real Estate Magazine. But Andrew, tell us what's the DMO for REM in the industry?
Yeah. So, the oversimplification, the unsexy way of saying it is it's a trade publication focused on the Canadian real estate industry. Basically, we want to provide the news to Canadian realtors and people within the industry. So it's not just necessarily realtors, but brokerage owners, vendors to realtors, things like that. We want to kind of keep everyone in the loop of what's going on. Historically, it's been a print newspaper that's gone out monthly. If you pre-COVID were in offices, you saw it basically because it got distributed to every office in Canada. Sure. Going forward, we might bring the print back down the road. To start, we're going to be digital only. Part of the reason for that is just we're not sure that enough people are back in offices yet to justify sending out a newspaper like that. So we're looking at a few options for down the road on the print side, but for now it's going to be all digital. And we're going to start bringing in more stuff like, videos, podcasts, different things like that to start. Like we're going to do heavy written for now. So you're going to see more incremental changes at the beginning than like an overnight massive change. Like obviously we did a big change to the design. But
looks great, eh? The logo looks great. Everything looks awesome. Love the website. Yeah.
Yeah. Our guy did a wonderful job. Like he first sent me the samples for the logo and it was like an immediate, like, that's the one.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're doing that. No question. And then like I didn't even give him really that much feedback on the design. Like he took that logo and what you see now is almost draft one.
Okay.
Like it was,
okay, cool. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, he killed it. Like I was like,
good
no notes. Let's do it.
Nice. No, it looks good, man. It looks good. So trade publication for the industry. And I mean, we know that over the years, it's been like, this has been the source of news, right? Like if there's good news stories, you're going to find them there. If there's events coming up, you're going to find them there. Obviously, if people want to, companies or agents or brokerages want to get out there and sort of build mind share, REM is a go-to source for that, though.
Yeah.
All jokes aside on that.
That much of that in Canada from like an independent source, right? Like mostly in Canada, they're connected to like it's a brand's newsletter or a board's newsletter or something like that. And REM's been one of the few independent sources. So it's nice. And that's what we plan to continue. Like one of my big things, like, so we're interviewing editors and we have someone that we're just waiting for her to sign back. Who we think will take it is like, we don't want this to ever become like a gossip rag style, clickbait type of place, like actual journalism done on the trade level. That's kind of like the goal that we want to do. Cause I don't want to go like, yes, we can do the hate clicks, which get more clicks and all that, but that's not my style. If you followed my content for a while, I'm not. The only time I ever did that was as kind of like a joke, as a lesson. And if you actually then clicked on it, it said like, this is what I was doing to show you how this works.
Yeah. Well, I think we got enough of that when it comes to social medias anyways. Like when we go there and you see all the chirping and all the BS that goes on, like, in my mind, I would say, and let's be real clear about that. REM is nothing like that. This is not, this is real industry news. This is good stuff. This is informative. This keeps you in the know for what's going on out there. And that's what at least from what I see of it. Right. Yeah. Tell me this though, like, there's probably some obvious answers to this, but what caused you to want to buy this iconic publication and work through this entire thing of like a revamp or relaunch, as we might call it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, like some people do. I can't remember if I told you, but a couple of years ago, I even tried to buy it back then.
Yeah.
So I'd been in contact with them. I don't
know anything. I've never heard anything from you ever.
Yeah. So I started a couple of years ago, couldn't come together on price back then. So then when they shut down, I reached out again. We were able to kind of kickstart that conversation up again. I mean, obviously for us, I think REM on its own is a solid business. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of potential there, especially with the digital side, which largely like they didn't go hard on the digital before. They focused heavily on the print. So obviously like my background being digital marketing and media, like that's something I know how to do really well. Mm-hmm. So I think we could do unlock a lot more potential on that side. Separately from that, like, let's be honest, I'm adding a massive amount of people to my database. That's going to be pretty good for Just Sell Homes too.
Absolutely.
There's no hiding that there. Like, yes, we're keeping them as separate companies, but there's going to be options there. For example, like unsold ad space becomes Just Sell Homes ad space. Stuff like, so there's going to be some things like that. Like they are still going to be
none of the ad space is ever going to be sold anymore.
It's not going to be discounted.
Yeah.
That's the main one. That's like, there's obviously some stuff like that. And then even just from like profile, getting us more, attention. And I mean, you say get us more press. We are kind of the press now, I guess. But
yeah, no, seriously. I mean, look, if we look around the landscape of Canadian real estate, there are other publications available, but to be very clear, none of them are actually Canadian.
Yeah.
Therefore, the content that comes out is obviously not Canadian. And we're talking like guys that sort of put together industry news and give you a go-to resource.
Yeah. There's a lot of consumer-facing real estate ones and some pretty good ones out there. And they might throw in the odd articles for realtors, but there's nothing that's like all industry all the time.
That's my point to it, right? Yeah. It's like that industry. Like if you're in the industry, this is where you go to figure out what's up.
Yeah.
Right. So looking at that then, like and I mean, you mentioned a moment ago around sort of direction there, but what can people expect from the magazine going forward? Again, like Is it something that for those that have been long timers that have really followed REM, I'm sure they're excited to see that there's this revamp happening.
Yeah.
Can they expect to see a lot of what the same as it's always been? I imagine just knowing your crew, there's a lot of fresh plans in place as well. Like you talked about the podcast stuff, the video stuff, whatever. Yeah. What can people expect to see?
So at the beginning, the content's basically going to be the same. It's Jim Adair, who's amazing, who's been the editor since 1989.
Jim is a gem.
He basically came out of retirement to make sure that this happened. I remember when I first talked to him, he's literally treated me like the father of the bride. He was like, "What are your intentions with my baby?" I did get his sign off. He was happy with what we had planned. But so he's come out of retirement, so he's helping us out until the new editor's up and running. Nice. Then you'll start seeing more changes, but it's going to be a lot of the same content you've seen in the past. Obviously, the marketing focused content is going to have a big revamp. I think it's going to be a lot more in depth to my style, which if you know my style, it's a little bit more colloquial and a little bit more like this is something you can go do today instead of more like high level. So there's going to be a mix of that type of thing. So the marketing style, you'll see a lot of changes. The news side will mostly stay the same from the written side, but we're going to start bringing in more video and things like that. But to be honest, I'm also going to let the editor that we bring on have the control over the editorial side of things. So like I'll be pushing like new ways to promote it, one of the reasons I like this one that I think we're going to go with is this is her specialty is like new media, different types of content, things like that. So we have a lot of cool stuff kind of working. Not everything's settled. I know for me, what I want to do is really dive into like what makes agents successful and highlight different people in the industry. Like we just got a pitch yesterday that I like is like how to be successful as an agent as a single mother. Like that's an interesting angle to me, and like things like that. And then things like, how do pre-construction people operate their business? Right. So going into other profiles like that of, the things you might not see every day of different ways you can run a business and kind of highlighting those different things there. And really diving into like the people side of things. I really like focusing on like the good that realtors do in communities. I think those are so many good stories on that front. REM's done a great job of covering those, and we're going to double down on even more of that. So like as an example, we haven't announced it anywhere yet. I think I can announce it. That's
what we're here for today.
It's not really an announcement, but we're kind of doing stuff with Korea for the Realtor Cares Awards. So we're going to be the media partner.
Nice.
With that, help them. So like I'll be at the AGM. I think we actually get to present the award to whoever eventually wins it. And then I'll actually get to be like on the selection committee for that through it. So there's like some cool stuff like that we're getting involved in now. But I'm excited to, because like for me, like if you've read the Just Sell Homes newsletter, like I end every single one with like, here's a feel good story of the week.
Yeah.
Let's leave people smiling. And I want to kind of take that a little bit of the same approach while still being fair and honest in reporting, but I would rather people leave smiling than pissed off.
You know what, man? Listen, first on that note, I would say that from a media perspective, positivity, good news is always important. And it's not something, and I mean, I'll just throw it out there from a very personal perspective. Like, I don't get that from the mainstream media, and you barely get that from social media anymore, right? It's always, there's either a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of like negativity and bad news stories about the bad things going on, or social media can be now it's posturing or a lot of bitching and complaining. The reality is the good news story is huge. I mean, I just had, Eduardo Ramon, who's a Remax agent, join the show a few weeks ago, whatever it was. And anyways, he's got this foundation that he put together, like sponsoring kids that are growing up in the Jane and Finch area. And he put together this Dreams Foundation. And I mean, when I heard of it, I was blown away. I thought, like, that is wicked. Here's a guy young guy, he's doing well in real estate. He's working really, really hard for it. He goes out and he puts together a scholarship for kids who cannot afford to go to school or don't even have the mindset around the fact that like they could actually be successful. Yeah. And to me, that's special stuff, right? So, I mean, same thing. It'll be really nice to see content like that because there is a lot of good news, and we know a lot of people that are doing some great things out there. And I think that being able to share that out and show other agents why it's so important to give back.
Yeah.
And whatever give back means, right? It could be putting events together. It could be, donating. It could be getting involved in the community. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but I think a lot of times people go, well, I'm just too busy for that. I don't have time. And whatever. And you're like, look, if you give back though, it's amazing how like reciprocity comes back to you.
Yeah. And like, I mean, generally when we do a lot of stuff for charity. Like I Just Sell Homes, we always have. But I mean, I do that first just because I like helping people.
Right.
I mean, secondary, and it doesn't hurt, it does help business in the long run. Like even if it costs you money up front, I've always found it to be worth it. Even if you were looking at it purely as a business move, doing that type of stuff has also helped business.
Okay, talk to me about that a little bit more for a second. Like it's because it's again, from a time perspective, a lot of people would sit back and say, well, I just don't have time to go out and do. I've got so much going on in my world. How can I go help this person? Yet when you live it and you truly do it out of like authenticity, being genuine about your intentions, we know that things come back. You've obviously seen that. You've had examples of that before.
But yeah, like I couldn't even tell you the amount of times I've like donated to things or helped things out. Or like, I'll give you an example, the Royal LePage conference coming up next week in Winnipeg. Like we have a special booth there that because we're doing marketing audits, but you have to donate to the Shelter Foundation first. So anyone who's there can get like our team to audit their marketing and social media. They just have to go donate to the Shelter Foundation first. They're like my conference that I was doing pre-COVID every year was we didn't take any profit, like 100% of proceeds went to charity. Right. And it's like, I can tell you, like we, even though we'd always lose money up front on that conference, and sometimes a pretty significant sum because conferences aren't cheap, as you know, if you then look 12 months out from like business acquired coming from those conferences, we'd then end up being positive. Right. But that's not the entire, like it actually originally that conference started entirely as I needed to raise a certain amount of money for a charity mountain bike race I was in. I was like, I have a problem just asking people for money. Yeah. I'm not good at that. So I'm like, I have to give them something. So I was like, well, what do? I do training. I think I do that fairly well. So I basically was like, I could probably rent out like a little space in Collingwood. I know enough people up there that I could put something on. And as I started planning that, a couple people were like, oh, if you're doing that, I'll come speak. I was like, all right. That just kind of like snowballed into a mini conference.
Yeah, we had some fun at those for sure.
And it was literally like 100% of proceeds to charity that first year. But because it spiraled with more and more speakers and getting bigger and bigger, it ended up costing me way more money than I thought. Went from like a little workshop as essentially like I was going to invite local brokerages to like I had people coming in from out at like couple, like I think one person even flew in the first year from Calgary.
I remember some stuff like that.
Like the next year, definitely more people. The next year was bigger. And then like Paul Hannon gave a lot of help where like he organized the night before event, and but it all just started from like we were trying to help this. So it was for a Shelter Foundation type thing up in Collingwood. That's literally, it just kind of snowballed from there. And like basically my entire conference series, which I've taken a lot of business from, helped me meet a lot of great people, all came from me just trying to raise money for a local charity for a mountain bike race I was doing.
And I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about connecting with other people. Yeah. And we know that the business that we're in, all business is based on connecting with other people. Much the same, though, especially this real estate business. I think it's very important just to continue to stress. And I mean, I continue to stress it all the time. It's a people business, right? Just get out there and connect with people. And so, to that same thing.
Part of the news. So like I do it every Thursday a newsletter to our clients, and tomorrow, so it goes out tomorrow. I got to finish writing it still. Is I'm breaking down kind of the stuff behind the REM acquisition, like kind of the more like business nitty gritty side of it, of like really my like really raw thoughts on everything. And one of the parts is like, this is also this type of tool, a great way to build more relationships with people because you have something they want, which is the audience. So you get into a lot of more like relationships with people that can help your business too. Right.
So tell me this, like, as we talk about connections, why should people be connected with REM and really what should they expect again? And then we've talked about expectations, but in terms of like the helping in the industry, I guess it's sharing good news stories, it's keeping people informed.
Yeah. Letting us, like, if you know of agents doing something really cool and like good and out there, like a lot of people are doing these things not to get publicity, right? Like I've done things that like I specifically don't tell people about. I just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I know other people who do things like that too. But if we can find out about it, we can do stories about it. But just like it's sometimes hard to get the word out there about something you're doing, it can also be hard for us to find out about what people are doing if they're not telling us. right? So if you know someone in your community that like should be given a shout out because of good things they're doing, please reach out and tell us about it. I mean, we do get a lot of pitches, but not all of them are going to be newsworthy, but definitely some will be, and we can start profiling people doing really good things in the community. So from like the, agent community side of things, if you guys see someone doing something really cool, or really good, things like that, let us know about it. You can DM me, you can reach out to like our accounts, stuff like that, but let us know what you see going on, because we want to highlight that. Like, if you look at consumer media, most of the times realtors are like in focus, it's not for good reasons. Because like generally traditional media, there's a lot of value in hate clicks because you get more traffic, which means you sell more ads. Whereas for our business, because we can do a lot of business for Just Sell Homes, I don't need to get those hate clicks to make this a very profitable venture.
Dude, I love what you're saying right now, because back to the comment I made a moment ago, like I don't watch the news. I stopped watching the news well before the whole 2020 March thing happened. And it was one of those where like I remember turning on the news one day, and I brought this up before, I even posted about it one day, but it's like you're watching the ticker on like CP24 and it literally says like breaking news, one of like Prince's white doves has died. And I'm like, that made breaking news right now. Like
breaking news is for everything now. And I'm like,
but that's the thing. But and most of it there, like you go watch any of that stuff, there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't even pertain to the people that are there. Whereas Rev Magazine is going to be directly involved in the real estate industry. Yeah. And again, with an MO of trying to share good news stories. I love it.
Yeah. And because we've always had a lot of potential contributors reach out, and we've been pretty clear, like if you're going to be contributing content, like I'm going to be vetting things pretty hard in terms of, do you have something that's of value to say? Are these things that like actually has value to realtors? Because I don't want content going out that's very fluffy, right? Like I don't. Yeah. Like if you think of like how many social media articles have you seen out there that the number one and only tip in an article is just be authentic?
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you're going to say be authentic, I need a step-by-step plan of what people are doing to show that authenticity on there, ideally even with examples, right? So if you're just going to say be authentic because people want to know who you are, that's not an article that's going to make it into REM.
There you go.
Right? Like you got to give me a roadmap if you're going to do something like that. So that's like a big change on the marketing side. Obviously, like if you follow JSH content, there's going to be a lot of similarities on that front. Then I'm also excited for just opening up content from my perspective of like for JSH, I'm always marketing and sales related content. I'm excited to start getting into the other side of the industry because like obviously I've been in it now for 10 plus years. I know a lot of that other stuff and like know the industry very well, but it doesn't make sense with JSH to talk about a lot of it. Right. Now I can kind of start playing into those other ponds there that are within the industry.
Now, as we're talking about connections and everything else, how do people connect? How do people get involved from a readership perspective? I mean, personally, I know we've got the website.
Yep.
As you've already mentioned, there's going to be emails going out. Should people be starting to, sort of favorite, sign up for the email somewhere? Should they be going over the site and saving it as a favorite or whatnot? Like, I know for me, seriously, no joke, like it's been on my home screen as a go-to. Like if I'm going to read the news most days, I'm going to go over to REM and I see what's up. Past number of months, I guess it's been, there hasn't been a whole hell of a lot to go to. Yeah. But it's like, I'm excited to start being able to go back there and be like, okay, what's up? What happened today?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the website will have content. Our newsletter's 3 times a week. And that's basically sharing the latest articles. So it's kind of like a quick hit if you've been getting the Just Sell Homes.
By the way, the Queen Bee is in the house, and she said she just wanted to wish you a big congratulations once again, Virginia Munden, with the Buzz Conference.
Thanks, Virginia. I actually owe you an email about something, so I'll send that out. I've just been busy about 24 hours. I owe you an email on something.
There you go.
I'll follow up with you soon.
Cool. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah. So we got the newsletter 3 times a week. So that's going to go on basically like a recap of what's been going on, popular articles, stuff like that. It's going to be similar style. Like we're going to kind of meld the old style of how they did it with the JSH style newsletters that have been the weekly ones that we've sent out at the agency. So we're going to do that 3 times a week. Then there's obviously the new content on the site. And then social channels. So we just started a new Instagram account because they did.
I was about to ask you about the social media. Yeah, go for it.
They didn't have Instagram before, so we just started a brand new one from scratch. So like it's still pretty early in that, like only a couple hundred followers, which it's all right for a day. And
what's the Insta handle? It's RealEstateMagazine.ca, right?
Yeah. So that one's brand new. Twitter, we're going to start diving into there. It's got 32,000 followers on Twitter, but because they haven't tweeted since April, engagement obviously is going to take some time to get that back up. And then with LinkedIn and Facebook as well. We're having a few debates like, do we do a Facebook group or do we just exist in the existing Facebook groups that are out there in the industry?
Okay, hold on. Stop. I'm going to ask you right now. I need to hear it from you. Andrew, are Facebook groups still working?
Yeah.
Dude, is Facebook still working?
So organically speaking, Facebook groups kill it.
Okay.
If Facebook groups did not exist, the only thing I'd care about on Facebook are the paid side.
Why? The feed is just, that's it, it's done?
It's not great organically. Like you can look at content. Like, yes, things like announcements. Like I was joking, the REM announcements, one of the highest engagement posts I've ever had. If you took away me announcing I'm having a baby or the birth of a baby, it's the highest engagement I've had on a post. So there's things like that.
And that came, just to clarify for everybody, sorry to cut you off, that came from your personal side, though. That was not a business post.
Oh, if you look, like the personal piece on Facebook killed the engagement compared to anywhere else. And it's not close.
Saw that.
Right. And that's to be expected. Now, that's partially how I've also built it, right? Like I have a very strong, building a personal brand over the last 7 years of JSH where we've pushed a lot there. And because Real Estate Magazine on Facebook hasn't posted since April, you expect engagement to be lower there.
Right.
But even if we had been, doing everything we could to get engagement there and then did a big announcement, it still wouldn't get as much as I personally do on Facebook right now. So like that side of it. Now on Instagram side, it's different. You can get way more. Like we actually, if you look at essentially our engagement rate on Instagram, even though the numbers are low because our following count just starts on the low side, like the engagement rate as a ratio is actually really high. Good. So it's a good start, but organic Instagram is always way better. And then Facebook, it's paid ads I love on Facebook because they work so well and they're so cheap. But everything else about it. Now, the only problem with REM from a paid ad, which is just kind of a fun thing, is they always think we're a realtor. So they try to any content I try to put. They try to put under the housing category. So anytime I run an ad, I have to go through the fun, rejection, go to support, get it turned back on process, which we do a lot. Basically, I probably at any given time have at least one employee on with Facebook Monday to Friday. I
got to tell you, I think that the revamps they've done, the notifications are out of control. Some of the stuff, so many little widgets do not work. It's frustrating. Yeah. I've gotten to the point where it's a complete waste of time. We go in there because, we want to stay connected with the people we want to stay connected with. Absolutely. As a business, we, of course, still leverage Facebook as a channel. And I think my advice to everybody would be much the same. At the same time, too, I'm getting so frustrated with the platform itself in just terms of functionality, time spent, etc. I'm just about done with it, man.
There's a little bit of that's why I bought REM in there.
Okay.
Right? If you want to be long-term successful, you need an email list.
Absolutely. Right? This is not, thank you. This is not about social media.
I love the Dean Jackson line. It's one of my favorite lines. You only send emails on days you want to make money. And
send an email every single day.
It's my favorite marketing line for email marketing. And it's true. If you actually look at the numbers, the highest ROI in marketing activity today online is still email. Most people suck at email, but it's still the most powerful marketing thing online. So this was when my brother and I were evaluating the REM deal. We're like, okay, let's look at worst case scenario. What happens here? Is it doesn't, no advertisers come back. They've all put their money somewhere else. That's worst case scenario, which we've already gone past that because we have advertisers coming back. But worst case scenario, no one comes back. The REM side of the business flounders, hypothetically. Is it still worth it for us to buy it? Yes, because we're adding 30,000 people to our email database.
Right.
At a price that is similar to what we would pay if we had to run ads to drive new subscribers.
Yeah. Right? For me personally, knowing you and Mark, I just I don't see this thing floundering, but
no, I'm not worried about that at all. Like, I don't think, but obviously, like when it's a big amount of capital we were put out to do it relative for us. We had to look at like, what's the worst case scenario here? And for us, the worst case scenario is there is no REM. And what does this do for JSH? Well, we 10 times the size of our mailing list.
Right.
So on that end, it's worth it. But
so looking at
its own business.
Absolutely. And again, I got no doubt that, again, between yourself and your team there, and I know Mark's there as well, that you guys are going to take this thing and, again, just completely, just take it to its next level. And I think it's already getting there just from what you bring to the table. We've talked about the type of content we can see. You have put it out there already today on the show, and I'm sure it'll continue to go out there. But, if anybody does have stories, anybody has content that they want to share out, there's obviously a channel that you've got for them to be able to share that to you guys so that you can vet that, see where it's going. And again, when we talk about where it's coming from, there's going to be very much from, obviously, you have a team that's going to be sourcing, but there's also going to be the feet on the street, the people that are in the industry that are going to feed ideas and thoughts to you guys. Would that be bang on there?
Yeah. And to be clear too, on the like editorial side, you can pitch me as much as you want. Our editor is going to be in charge of that.
Of making sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like that's one thing that we have to be careful about. And I think that previously Jim and Heino, who ran it, and then his son Will, did a really good job of is keeping the business side and the editorial side completely separate. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do too. So like the only kind of content I'm going to be involved in is more in like the marketing style content that's going out, but the news side I'm going to be like 100% separated from, and that's going to be kind of the decision done at the editorial side. So if you have content on that end, what I will do is if you reach out to me, I'll introduce you to the editor. But then it'll be the editor's choice if it's essentially newsworthy or not to go out. Is there going to be some sort of email address that you put out there in terms of people wanting to contribute? Is there a process you guys are sort of putting in place, or is this just like DM? Right now it's very manual. Yeah. Like right now, the system is essentially email us and I'll forward it to the editor. When we have the new editor on board, we're going to be obviously like more systemizing and putting some more formal systems and processes in. So that's a TBD basically. Cool. And so like there was a business decision we launched sooner than we were had a ton of systems built. I mean, at the end of the day, larger advertisers make their budget plans now for next year. So we wanted to get up and launched again so that they can make sure they'd want to include us in their plans for next year. Smart. Yeah. Otherwise, I might have waited a couple months of getting more content in the bank, more stuff in place, have some shows ready to go at launch type of thing. But I'd rather get out there, let people know we're back. Just keep building, man. Start making this 2023. And we're going to do more, like I was saying, like iterative changes. So at a time, doing a little bit here and there, as opposed to coming out of the gate with a million things new at once. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell me this then, staying on the topic of content for one more moment here. How fresh will the content be? Is this something that I should be thinking to myself, visit once a week and read it all, go in there daily because there's going to be fresh stuff every day? Is this a monthly thing? We both know from creating an audience, there's got to be some sort of consistency, some sort of expectation from it. Yeah. What is that with REM? What can people expect from there? Tasking the editor with that we're bringing on is 3 pieces a day is the minimum. Okay. So 3 brand new pieces of content per day are going to be posted to the website. And a lot of that will be more newsworthy stuff. But then on top of that, we'll have things like I'll be writing more regular blogs on marketing. And then my team, I have my Jen and Aaron on my team are the Instagram specialists. They have a bunch of stuff right now. I'm waiting for the editor to start doing the editing on it because I think I actually have to send it to him, to be honest, because I was reviewing it first. And then I'm going to send it to the editor and then we'll have those up. And those types of things will be kind of in addition to those 3 pieces a day. So there'll be days you see more than 3, but it's kind of 3 minimum. And then we're going to start over a pint, for example, we'll probably start releasing as more of a REM thing than a JSH thing. So I have an episode right now with our Memorian we're about to release. So put that out. I had one filmed with Darcy Tunes and the audio file got corrupted. So it was 18 minutes of good episode and then nothing worked after that. So I had to film with Darcy.
And for those that aren't familiar with Over a Pint, this is Andrew's show. It's a very dangerous show to be a guest on because he doesn't just come in with questions and he wanted to do an interview, but as the title speaks for itself, Over a Pint, he typically tries to feed you a few more than one pint, and well, by the end of it, it's you're probably almost worried about the audio file that he does walk away with. So I know we had a blast that time.
I always joke that one of the funny things about it is like what takes it so long to edit is I have to do the editing, because once people get a few beers in them, there's the odd RICO violation that might happen.
Yeah, just the odd one, right?
Loose the lips a little, so I make sure that those get cut out.
What did you say about our episode? Like once had the most swear words we've ever dropped or something?
I think it was the quickest we've ever had, because I try to not swear at the beginning, because what we learned with your episodes, if it's in the first 15 seconds, Facebook won't let me run an ad to promote it. But I found if it's 5 to 10 minutes in when we start swearing, then there's no issue.
Tell me this. Sorry.
We might start cleaning it up a little bit and bleeping things out, but that could be because now might potentially take sponsors for it.
Right.
But to be honest, I might still have it in, just give them a warning. If you're going to sponsor this,
just beware. Yeah. There is a pint or two involved.
But not everyone drinks. I also like to be clear about that, right? Yes, it's fun. It's having over a pint, but I also know not everyone drinks and they have their own reasons and they're none of my business why. Totally. So I always give people the option when we book, listen, if you don't drink, we can drink something else. We've had people doing apple juice because they wanted it to look like beer, which is fine. And I've had other people who we've had kale smoothies on the show.
Oh my God. It's still not over a pint though. Yeah. It's over a kale smoothie.
Well, it's in a pint class.
Tell me.
It doesn't specifically say over a pint of beer in the name. It's over a pint. I'm booking one. We had to reschedule it just from something on my end. But I have one coming up with Develle Morrison that we're going to do. And she's going to do green tea, right? There's a lot of options.
Speaking of green tea, you did have a revamp on your logo once. Has anybody actually opted to go that direction as opposed to over the pint?
No, that will not happen.
Okay, here, back to this, talking about, the content that's going out and what the publication is all about. Ad space. Can people buy ad space? How does that work?
Yep. So that you just reach out to me. I rebuilt the media kit. Because I actually think I owe it to you too. I'll flip that over. Yeah, redesign the brand new audio kit. The big difference with the media kit. So before, the online stuff was you could buy banner ads on the website or banner ads in the email. I'm sure if you know me, you know that digitally speaking, there's a lot more that I like to do. So we have a lot more options now in the media kit for what we can do.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you just thought about that there.
Yeah, so there's so many more options available to people that also things could be done. And this is part of the reason we bought it, is it's an easy upsell to just sell homes at that point of, well, I'll just get you a little bit of results here. Now imagine if we took over all your marketing.
Right.
So that's one of those things where it's okay, let's help you get some exposure here. But do you want us to run all your Facebook ads, even not related to REM? Right. So it's that. Let's start getting those results and then we can sell you on a bigger thing. So if any big advertisers are watching, that pitch is going to happen if you book a call with me. But that's kind of the idea, right? Is let's start getting them some simple result and get these results going here. And then we can look at an upsell to the larger packages. So that's part of the reason we also bought REM, is to get introduced to larger and larger clients. So it's an easy way into those ones where we can lead with that value here. But I mean, even with talking about the ad space, yes, anyone can buy it. I am going to be selective on what we allow, though. That I want to, not just anyone can come in and buy an ad. If I don't think there's value, if I don't think it's something that realtors would find value in, we're going to get rid of it. So I'm going to be selective, and that's part of the advantage of having Just Sell Homes. Like I was saying, unsold ad space is a Just Sell Homes ad space. So if I don't feel that something is valuable, so our first partner is Humber College. I actually love what they're doing, which is they've identified that, people, when they get their real estate license, typically you're taught how not to get sued. You're how to run your business so that it's RICO compliant, right? Well, what about actually running a business? So Humber has now launched courses for licensed realtors on how do you run a sales side of your business, leadership courses and things like that. And I mean, if you've talked to enough people in the industry, everyone talks about like that's the type of education that's missing and needed.
I'll tell you this, man. We've been working with those folks for probably over a year now, putting those courses together. We've written a number of those courses that are in there. And I mean, this is something I said to Aurea many years ago. And this was through my licensing when I did my licensing. But I told them at one point, I said, like, you got this thing all wrong. You're trying to test, great salespeople on paper. And those salespeople may not necessarily be your best testing people on paper, but put them at the table, they're going to do a great job. And the licensing really does come down to, the legalities and what to do when you're at the table and how to stay compliant and everything else. But there's an aspect of it of you've got to be able to get to the table. You've got to create those opportunities for yourself and really run this like a business. Yeah. And that, just as we bring it up, that's one of the biggest messages from Mindshare is all about that. Right, is how to create a business out of this real estate game. And no matter what the market's doing, you're always resilient. You're always able to win. You've always got a business running in the background, right? It's an important message. It's got to get out there. It's got to they got to continue to be taught. Anyways, we're excited to be part of that whole education. That's why I'm so
excited to have Humber on board. Is like something I genuinely agree is needed in the industry.
Yeah, big time.
And I when they talked to me about like their motivations behind creating it, I liked it. So like the other one would be like Aurea is obviously a partner early on because they have the reality conference coming up, and I love the reality conference. Yeah. So that's going in there too.
You gonna be there?
Oh yeah. So I have a booth. We'll be there the whole time. Looking for, so that'll actually be the first place I do a joint JSH REM booth.
Nice. Very cool, man. Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one.
We've talked about print versus the online stuff. Right now, we're going to be web, we're going to be we're going to be social. Print may come down the road later on. What else? I mean, we've talked about content, we've talked about advertising, we talked about what the sort of the DMO is, like what are we trying to get out there on a regular basis? A lot of good news stories. People can contribute stuff. It'll be vetted, of course. What else can we share about Real Magazine?
I mean, I love feedback from people on what they'd like to see too, because this is, something that we're going to be fixing and changing and doing all these different things over time. I want to hear from people the type of content they want to see. Because yes, it's relatively, REM is not like this massive company, but I think it does have a lot of influence in the industry. So if there's something that like we think can help with, positive change that we can report on, we'll talk about it. So if but as long as we can approach it from like a fair and balanced sort of manner, we'd love to talk about things. So like when if we're thinking back to like when that CBC article came out or that video came out about like steering and all that, I'd love to be like, all right, let's actually look at that from a less sensationalized, more objective boots on the ground point of view with realtors, and doing things like that. Or like, what changes could we report on that could actually be more useful for the industry? But because like a lot of the stuff that comes out might be very biased towards the party putting it out for different types of content. So maybe we can look at things a little bit more objectively. I do want to get more opinion content too. So
like that actually just came up, and this was a really
remind me of the Kobayashi Maru. I want to talk about my Kobayashi Maru thing.
Okay, yeah, sorry to cut you off there. So as Virginia was listening, and she made a nice little suggestion. You're going, it'd be nice to create an editorial on which Facebook or Instagram and do a poll for your readers, subscribers to see where they spend most time. I think I'm going to take that up personally and just put that up like through my social media channels. I think it'd be interesting. And again, just throwing it out there as a suggestion. If REM, with the voice and the reach that it's got, was able to say, hey, which platforms? And I think it'd just be curious. It'd be great information for people to kind of go, interesting.
You want to know
where are people spending time? What's that? Email. I know, it's true.
I was actually saw a stat the other day, which is wild. 1/3 of all desktop traffic to the internet comes from email. Sorry, not 1/3 of all traffic. 1/3 of the volume of Google search. So if you think of like Google search volume, how much traffic that sends to websites, 1/3 of that amount is just from people clicking through emails.
Like through Gmail or through links in their inbox?
Like links that emails get sent to them. So like if you say like, to make a nice round number, 100 people a day are sent to a website from Google search, 33 people a day through email would be going to those sites too. Like email is a huge driver of traffic.
Well, you got to think about it, right?
Everyone's in it all day long.
And that's the thing about email that we need to really understand is that, yes, you've got spam filters and junk boxes. I don't know about others, but I know we do go through these boxes just to make sure nothing actually fell in there by accident. It's important. And I would encourage everybody to do the same. Always go through those filters. You know, there's so many filters that go through the email engine that you use, the phone that you use, the operating system that you're using, the servers that you're using. There's so many filters that you don't even realize how many emails you don't get, never mind how many you do get. The one thing that's for sure is that when I send you an email, the probability that you saw that is incredibly high. I don't have a specific stat to give you there, but it's incredibly high. Whether you choose to ignore it, that's up to you. Yeah. But when it comes to social media, and we know this, it's only a very, very tiny percentage of your audience that's going to see you anyways. So the fact that you posted it and nobody responded to it, it doesn't mean because people didn't like you. It means that there's probably a lot of people that just didn't see it. Whereas again, email, they will see it.
Yeah, email has way higher open rates, right? Like if you look at percent of an audience that's going to see your posts versus potentially open your email, like especially if you have a smaller list, like if your list is, sub 1,000, 2,000, it's not unreasonable to have 50, 60+% open rates. When you're talking about like a list like REM that's over 30,000, and you look at that, like the fact that they have 40% open rates shows the trust they have with the audience.
Massive,
right? Like I think the lowest one in the last year that I was looking at was like a 35% open rate.
Do you know what's considered a good open rate?
19
is the average. 16 to 19%.
Yeah. And
it's considered good. So for anybody who's like, oh, but nobody opens my stuff, I only got 25% open rate. You are doing better than the average.
And even 25 though, I would not be happy with.
No, but you know what I'm talking about though. Yeah, the idea there very much, right?
Yeah. And like with the open rate, it's different than the content in there. But I think where a lot of people screw up when they're looking at open rate is they don't think about each piece, right? So like the subject line, yes, that matters for open rate, but it's okay, who's it coming from? Right? Because like a lot of teams, what I'll see their newsletter is it's listed as like
info at something.
Team admin. So like, because there's the name and the email, right? And both show up in the inbox. Well, sometimes it'll be like, this is the main admin email we're sending it from. So the name is like main admin. And then it's like admin@teamname.com. Right. Well, that should be David Greenspan coming, even if it's admin@Kitsback or admin@Mindshare.
That's how we do it.
The name should be David Greenspan.
Yeah.
So like even looking at like the Above the Fold, the newsletter I send out weekly, that comes from Andrew Fogliato, but I don't write it. Maureen on my team writes it. She even signs it in there. Like it very clearly says this is done by Maureen in a couple places, but it's coming from me. Now, part of the reason I have it come from me versus like a team type of one is because all the replies come to me.
Right.
So that way I can have conversations with people.
Yeah,
and that's actually a big change, which overwhelmed me a little yesterday. Before REM sent from a no reply address, so it was no reply at REM.
Yeah.
I switched it to our main one. So every reply came to me.
But do you actually answer?
Yeah.
Important, right? Relationships, connections with people.
I do have someone who helps me a little bit. But for like yesterday, I was like, don't touch any.
I got this.
So yesterday was all me personally. But I mean, I have 3 businesses and 5 email addresses.
Yeah. It's
a lot to like still be responsive for. So I have someone who helps me with a few of the emails, but basically the way that we kind of have the deal set up. So I actually just use a new program called Superhuman, which is if you have multiple emails to manage, it helps you really flow through them. Is basically any that like I need to be the one responding to, she leaves. And then I respond to those when I have a chance, and she'll just respond to the others, but then she'll send me a recap of like, here's what's been sent. Yeah. Because like there's a lot of things that it's like, hey, can you send me a copy of this? That doesn't need to be me going, grabbing a link, flipping it over.
No, of course.
Right? But anything that's more like personal in nature, it's always me responding.
You were going to bring up something about Mike?
No, the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh, sorry.
I'm a big giant nerd. So I'm part of this group, League of Real Estate Geeks. So we were brainstorming content, and I love this. So Tony Joe, if you guys know Tony Joe West.
Tony Joe's been on the show before,
Star Trek fan. And there's a thing in Star Trek called the Kobayashi Maru, which is an unwinnable scenario. So it's a test for potential captains. Basically, you go in and you can't win. You can't beat this scenario unless you cheat. So what do you do in an unwinnable situation? We want to take that, and we're going to do a REM series that basically presents unwinnable scenarios for agents to find themselves in. and then go to people with like decades of experience in the industry of how would they handle that situation. So it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So like if people come up with like, hey, here's a really tough situation I found myself in, I would love to get those sent to me. And then I will take that to people who've been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years. I might get some lawyers even to comment on it. And we'll have essentially, I don't know that I can call it the Kobayashi Maru series. There might be some copyright issues in there, but it'll be inspired by it. But that's one that like I'm really excited to, like, that's a new series of content we want to start bringing out is like, REM, one thing I love about it is like the community and like the experience of the realtors who read it. Like there's people who've been like, we actually had an article yesterday and it was like the Treb Awards for
I saw that
60 plus years in the industry, right? Like that means like they're in their 80s now almost.
Listen, that's what I think is very cool about what's going on right now with the relaunch. And again, you know, this is not to take away from the from Heino, from Jim, from what they've built. I mean, they built it, right? And they did an amazing job, and they've got loyal followers. Yeah. It has now taken on its next generation. We're going to keep the loyal followers continuing to follow and partake, but there's a whole new breed of people that are now going to engage with REM, and I think that's a very exciting thing for the industry.
Well, I mean, it's been shut down too. So like people have been like the traffic on the website was down to only like 20,000 a month till we relaunched it. So like it was before humming 50, 60,000 a month sometimes,
right? Which
in a Canadian industry perspective of 120,000, 130,000 people total, that's a lot of traffic for when that's like your kind of addressable market. That's like monthly, a third of the industry visiting the site.
For sure.
Right. Now so, there's obviously some consumer overlap in there and stuff like that, but
is there anything big that's going on that everybody needs to know about in the first like days or weeks, month of the relaunch? Like there's just anything that maybe we haven't covered off that we really want to share with people today?
So in the first email that went out, and we're going to start including it more, there was a survey to find out more about people who are on our list.
Cool.
Because we want to, like, that's a big focus of mine for the first 12 months is to really get more specific on who's on the email list. So like, is it more team leaders, solo agents? What type of volume of transactions are they doing? So that like when I'm looking at content, is this stuff going to be more relevant to them or not? So like, for example, hypothetically, if I found 20% of our list was team leaders, well, then I'm going to dive deep into some pretty good team leader stuff. But if, 95% of the list is all solo agents who don't have an admin, well, maybe I'm going to talk about like the first steps to hiring an admin or what you can do in your business to process it if you don't have an admin. So, but unless I have that data, it's more like, yes, I already know it's almost all Canadian realtors and industry people,
right?
But I can make way more specific comments. So if you see the surveys coming out, please answer them.
Well, I was going to say, so there's the ask though. Like everybody's going to be receiving it. Please get back to Andrew and the team. Just let them know where you're at. Fill it out, and that'll help the team put together content that's going to be even more applicable to you.
Because that's a big thing. Like, and one that I want to start doing, and it's not going to be this week or probably the week after because I'm in Winnipeg next week. One thing I want to start doing is like there's an email that goes out Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. The Sunday one, we're going to start including like gifts in them in the sense of like, here's resources for your business, right? Nice. Like downloadable templates and checklists and resources that people could put out in their business.
Homegrown stuff, or is that coming from outsiders?
Mostly to start, it'll be homegrown. Like we might do things like maybe 1 week it's a pack of Canva templates you can use in your business, for example. A marketing framework checklist of people's marketing strategy. We'll certainly allow advertisers or sponsors or contributors to create stuff for that. Obviously, we're going to be very selective on what we allow for that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Because again, I have to look at it and say, I see the value there for something like that to go out. But if I don't see that value, I'm not going to put it out.
Cool. So okay. So we've obviously talked a ton about REM. Super pumped for you. Real briefly on this front, what about JSH? For those that are concerned that maybe you've like changed your direction, is this a change? Is this just an add-on to what you already do? Is JSH still helping clients with their digital marketing? And for those who don't know, just give us a quick, like, who is JSH?
So you don't know us, we are a digital marketing agency. We specialize in a lot of social media marketing, especially Facebook ads, kind of what we've always been known for. But we do a lot of, I'd say our two biggest sources of business are Facebook ads and email marketing. So we do a lot of we have clients who do like their weekly newsletter, for example. which one thing REM will really help with is testing more things out with a big list. We can see what works, what doesn't, even at a higher scale, which we can take those learnings to our clients on their end. So I'm excited. So I understand where, because I've even had that conversation with some clients of like, is this going to take away? So one, I'm not doing the content myself, right? Like I'm hiring a, senior editor type role where they're going to be running all that. I'm doing the sales for it right now, but I'm going to be hiring a sales rep to take on the sales. So like my involvement in REM outside of like approving kind of direction strategy stuff is going to be more minimal. So most of my attention is still going to be JSH, and essentially REM is kind of going to be a little bit like a marketing department, but there's so much synergies between the two, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
So Jen on my team who does like the JSH social, we've purposely not been taking on organic social clients, so that we knew because REM was coming that she's going to put some of that time. So like for the most part on the organic side, we like JSH will just stop taking the day-to-day clients of posting.
Gotcha.
So the only like organic clients we'll take now is people who need a short-term help. So like, because we work with team leaders who it's like, hey, someone, they quit. We don't have anyone to do our day-to-day and we don't have time to do our day-to-day. We don't want our clients to suffer. So we'll take it on while they're hiring and then train the new hire to do it. So it's more like we'll fill in and help clients if they need it on the day-to-day. Right. But I still think like to this day, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, if you're going to hire your like someone to do the day-to-day social for you on the organic side, they should be in-house.
I can
so
even,
we train. Yeah. Our focus is now for the organic to train people.
Well, I've told you this before. You've seen me put it up. I've asked you quite like, are you good with this slide, right? If you're going to hire somebody, it's like hiring someone to go to a party for you, right? Now, that said, just to clarify what we just said, they got to be in-house. They've got to know exactly what's going on. It's got to be pretty much like your words that they just take and actually physically get it out there for you. So that, again, it really is you.
Yeah. So we run a lot of like 6-week programs for like brokerages or agents to train their admins for them. But it's like hands-on, like, okay, what have you guys been doing? What's worked for you? Analyze their stuff with them. And then we'll just kind of like, but that's where we don't want to get into the like managing day to day. So like we have a couple of clients we do that for right now, that we'll continue doing it for, but for the most part, we're not. But my focus is still like, I'd probably say it's split between JSH and REM. I'll probably be like 70% JSH still.
Cool.
So that's gonna be like this week's a little bit different because of
absolutely, but just I think for everybody that was just wondering, I think it's good to
majority JSH, hiring out more for that. And then the big one for me is I'm going to be way more selective. Like the easy way to say it is my speaking fee's gone up.
Yep.
But that's not necessarily because I think I can command more as a speaker. It's more just to be worth it for me to take time away.
It's time. Businesses. It's all time. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, like I was giving quotes recently, I was like, if I can drop my kids off and pick them up from school, my speaking fee is less than if I can't do that.
But it's all time involved. There's a cost to that, right? So for everybody that was wondering, you could take a sigh of relief.
Yeah,
JSH is still going strong as ever. But just some really wicked stuff going on. So here's a totally different question for you.
Yeah.
How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
It's a good question. On a day-to-day, I don't really look at if a day-to-day thing's successful, to be honest. I mean, to me on my day-to-day, it's like, there's a little bit of gut feeling. But I don't have like specific metrics on the day-to-day. I mean, I have it set up. I use a board. Like we have Asana as a team where I'll put like, I have the ever-growing to-do list. Mm-hmm, every time I have a to-do, I'll throw it in there. But then I have this week's priorities as the next list. So I'll take from that to-do list every like Sunday night, move it into this week's priorities. And it's a successful week if I knock off everything I have listed in the priorities list. So I'm more looking at it from like a weekly standpoint than like a day-to-day, because it's so easy to get a day derailed when you own businesses, right? Like, but sometimes it's derailed for a good reason. But I don't day to day on a daily basis. I don't really ever think about it that way. I more look at it as like a week at a time.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, maybe I should be looking at it day to day.
Well, listen, I think part of everybody's got a different answer. We've asked that question now almost 197 times on this show, and I would say that we are very close to batting 1,000. That like nobody ever brings up the word money. How much money did I make? How many deals did I close? We're fortunate. We get some, obviously, just as yourself, we get some incredible guests to join the show. And with that, you know, to be able to learn from folks that are doing something well, whatever facet that be in, when you ask about what success looks like, it does not come down to money.
Yeah, that's really like to use what I call the eye roll test, which has made my life a lot better. Managing my schedule, managing my clients, firing clients. The eye roll test is my favorite test, which is if I get a phone call and I look at the name and my eyes roll, that's not someone I am going to.
I'm not even going to go there. Tell me something. Give me some final words or tips that you could share to help everybody that's tuned in help themselves get out there and build a lot more mind share so they can get more market share.
Yeah. I mean, take the same example. Like, I think trade publications are very similar to community newspapers. There's value in them, and a lot of them aren't great businesses because they don't have something like selling homes that they can make money off of it. So I was actually talking about this with a client, like, look at local newspapers instead of putting ads in them, see if you can buy it, right? Like, if they're already running, you can buy that influence, and then you have unlimited ad space and influence and stuff in the community where you can be fine if the newspaper breaks even. Like, for me, I don't need REM to be profitable. I think it will be. But if REM is break even, I still have JSH, and it's going to drive stuff to JSH and some other stuff I have going on. That is going to be very good for us. And it's no different for an agent. Like, look at local opportunities. Like, if there's local podcasts, harder to get local podcasts if you're in a small town, not a lot of them, but like Toronto, there are some like niche Toronto podcasts that, for example, probably have 2,000 to 5,000 people listening. Mm-hmm. And the advertising on those wouldn't be that cheap, but maybe you can look at, you know, local newspapers. Like, I know there's a local one in the town that I was in. It's a very, very small newspaper. There's probably an opportunity to buy it. And
love that. He's not even telling you to like contribute content anymore. It's just go buy the thing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you have to have the funds to do it, but you can always get creative, like pay back with revenue, different things like that. Yeah. But like, this is actually one. So when I was an agent, I was with Remax Hallmark, and Ken McLaughlin was one of ours. And I remember I was talking to him one time, and we were just like casually chatting, and I asked him how recruiting was going. And because I was like curious at his level, he has one of the largest brokerages around, of like, you know, how much time do you spend recruiting? He's like, oh, I don't recruit like an agent at a time. Generally, is like, I recruit 100 agents at a time. Like, he looks at buying brokerages, because that at their level is like what moves the needle more. So he's like, right, I look at things that I can do that might add 100 agents versus one at a time. And that's kind of the approach when I started originally reaching out to REM, was like, what could I do to add 30,000 people to my mailing list instead of one at a time? And that kind of originally started. And like, so I've even like, I'm sure I've talked to you about it many times. For like past 4 or 5 years, I've been talking about wanting to start something like this in Canada, because it's been something that, like, on the digital side we've needed. Like, REM's been mainly print, and I think they haven't done as much digitally as maybe they could have. And I think that's one, but like the email numbers they have are so good, which is one of the main reasons I really wanted to get it. And there's so much potential there. So I think,
well, Andrew, we are super pumped to see it all come to life. I again wish you and your entire team a very, very, very big congratulations on taking over an industry icon, relaunching it all. REM, RealEstateMagazine.ca. This is absolutely awesome. Where can we send people? I know that we've got the Instagram, RealEstateMagazine.ca. Yep. Where else do we want to send people to? Where can they find you, connect with you? I mean, just again, between REM, JSH, Andrew Fogliato, what's up? Give them some contact info.
RealEstateMagazine.ca obviously is both our Instagram handle and our website. And you can find me, Andrew Fogliato, if you can figure out where the silent G is in there. You can go find me.
I was going to play with that off the top of the show a little bit, but I figured I'd let it be.
Yeah, the bio, actually, now I put the pronunciation.
Oh, I saw it. I was laughing about that one.
Yeah, no, but yeah, reach out.
Or like Kathleen would say, I still can never get it right.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in there for. I think if next time I go speak at a Kathleen event, I'm going to put a note of like pronunciation for Kathleen into that bio.
Just take the G right out for her script.
Yeah, I think at this point she's doing it on purpose.
She's awesome. She's awesome. We love her.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a running joke now.
Totally. Sorry, I totally cut you off. So RealEstateMagazine.ca.
story ideas, advertising, hello@RealEstateMagazine.ca. That's the email address if you want to talk to us about anything, you want to get in touch about advertising. I mean, as always, I'm pretty accessible. You can DM me. Generally, one thing I say with DMs on social, especially like Facebook and Instagram, is they got rid of the sort by unread. So if I haven't responded to you after like 48 hours to a DM, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because it got buried. And especially this week, the DMs are a little bit chaotic. So if I don't respond to you in one of those, but email, it always gets sorted again. I have someone who helps me make sure that the important stuff that I need to respond to is right there at the top. So email if you need to. If you do want to book a call because you want to jump right into either JSH marketing help or REM sales, book Andrew.ca forwards to my Calendly, and you can book right into my calendar and we can chat about it then.
Awesome. Well, I encourage everybody to save it as a favorite. Go to RealEstateMagazine.ca, both on Instagram, online, both places, and make sure that you're tuning in from now on because, hey, there is a relaunch here. There's going to be a brand new abundance of content coming out. A lot of great news stories. Again, please contribute. Reach out to Andrew and his team. Feed them with awesome intel of what's going on out there. I am totally excited for you, buddy. And again, just a big congratulations and as well, a very big thank you for joining us today, making the time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy. We'll do it again. You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content counter to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with us. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve, and how we will create a mindshare experience to satisfy exactly that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do, and this is super easy, is go to www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and follow them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. And remember these two events: the Buzz Top Leaders Under 35 Summit taking place on September 29th at the Mississauga Grand, and Disruption, which is scheduled for January 12th, 2023. Be sure to get your tickets at www.thebuzzconference.com. And of course, I want to thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.